Hello, Planet Watchers. Welcome to Scorpio season. Hi, Mary
Hello,
Jane.
hello. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing okay, doing
Oh,
okay.
good,
Um,
good.
you know,
Glad to hear.
the, it seems like so many people I know are on the struggle bus right now.
Oh yeah, I know. It's
Yeah.
it's a tough. Well, it was a tough summer, and it's going to be kind of a tough fall for a little while. So let's get used to it.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to try to help you use this stuff, but there's still such a lot of strife. There's such a lot of enmity, just this war scene is going on a global and very personal level and
It
is
is.
just getting to us, but we've got to try to make some order in here.
It's
I'll try to
not.
show you I'll try to show you some things that are going on, but it's still going to be a kind of a rough ride. We've got some good moments and some good places for healing and compromise that we'll talk about, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Scorpio is
Until
always tense. Let's talk about the energy first of all, and then we'll understand what's going on. Scorpio is the most intense emotional sign, water sign. Yes, it's a fixed sign. Emotions get fixed and get to their total capacity in the sign of Scorpio. It's a sign of passion. It's a sign of fanaticism. Everything is done on a huge scale in Scorpio. Now, what's happening though, we have to remember especially in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the period of degradation. This is when nature is totally changing form. The key to Scorpio is total transformation. Leaves are turning into mulch. Mulch is turning into earth, turning into peat. All of the cycles are coming to an end in Scorpio and getting ready to start up again. So we have to get in the mood for this transformative energy and let it touch ourselves. This is a wonderful time to be thinking about, where am I going? What am I doing? What are the others doing to me? What am I doing to other people? It's it's built into this need for growth, transformation, evolution. It's all about evolution, isn't it?
yeah.
And we get plugged into nature just right on time here in Scorpio. So it's a good time to be looking at what we really want and how we want to accomplish what we're accomplishing.
Right, right. So when you say getting back into nature, what do you mean, or getting back to the earth? What do you mean by that?
Well, just watch it here. Here, I'm living in Switzerland. I'm surrounded by vineyards. It's lovely. It's absolutely beautiful. But you can see the vineyards are changing color. Everything's going from green to gold to red to brown. It's an ongoing process, and we're feeling that within ourselves as well. If we're truly involved in nature, we can feel this need. First of all, it's a time to be slowing down. We're getting into winter mood. Uh, Gently, there are still a lot of things to do, but this energy is to slow down, to let it happen, to let the process take place. And that's what I mean. In nature, this is normal, this is natural. We human beings tend to fight against any natural processes fairly thoroughly. But no, let the evolution happen within us. That's what I think is important in that way. Now, on a very mundane level, Scorpio is also the sign of regeneration, recycling. This is a time when we're looking at taking care of pollution, cleaning up the atmosphere. Scorpio is also involved in epuration. What do you call that?
Mm,
Purification processes on all levels. You know, look at your plumbing. This is the time when you might have trouble in your house. I'm having water problems all over the place, and it's kind of normal. It's a time when we have to look at the purification processes on all levels.
Not a bad idea. Am I gearing up for the solstice, gearing up for the winter months,
Sure.
doing our winterization?
Sure, sure. It's important. Scorpio is also a sign that is involved very closely with our health, mental health, and also reproductive health. Let me just point out this for
Yeah.
well, women and men that are listening in. It's a time to be looking at our purification processes, but also reproductive processes.
Mm.
Uh, Scorpio is an excellent time to be doing your thorough checkups and getting the machine in order for the rest of the winter.
Right. Now, is there, you were talking about it's been a hard summer. I can attest to that. But it's going to be hard for a little while longer. When do things start to clear up?
Well, probably I'm thinking January is going to be better. As soon as we get some planets moving ahead around here, we're going to be feeling a little less stress. But I think the month of November and December possibly are December could be a little easier, but I think we're still in some difficult moments. Let me explain because the big picture is important here. I always like to start with seeing globally what's happening, and then we can work this down into what's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
The big picture and uh, the big sign change of Pluto is probably the biggest thing that's happening this month. Uh, Pluto is finally moving out of Capricorn, where he's done nothing good, moving into Aquarius, which is a more universal, I want to say more collective energy, an energy for innovation, for invention, for progress. Pluto is going to be important on a lot of different scientific pages in the next few years. However, this ingress is kind of tricky because during the whole month, in fact, Pluto is still finally opposite to Mars.
Mm,
It's still opposite to Mars. Let's see, Pluto's changing signs on the 19th of November is opposite Mars at the end of Cancer right now, and is going to, these planets are moving together. Mars will be changing signs and going into Leo at about the same time. So this Mars-Pluto opposition is going to continue along the zodiac all month and well into the end of November, December as well. Now there are some nice things. Pluto Mars, this opposition is the war. This is these different
mm.
confrontations, extremely violent confrontations that we can expect and will still be going on. This is not easing up.
Wow.
However, I maintain that Pluto moving out of its it was in a very comfortable trine with Uranus that was bringing on this escalation, especially the heavy bombardment and so on. Pluto's moving out of that trine, out of that comfortable ease of continuing and escalating the war. Where it's also ending a nasty shock that was going on between leaders among themselves in their own tribes.
Mhm.
We're going to see the end of that kind of stress. So one and the other, I'm thinking this could be a curve. This could be an important curve that will see the maximum
Mm.
of distress on all war fronts and easing into some new type of conciliation, some new type of negotiation anyway, from
Right.
sheer exhaustion, among other things.
Yeah, I'm hearing news from Israel, and things are just horrific.
For sure, for
Absolutely horrific.
sure.
And of course, Ukraine's
Yeah,
still going
the
on.
Israeli citizens are getting very, very tired of this
Oh, gosh.
this war that doesn't seem to make any sense to anyone.
No.
there's, of course, the camp that's still very excited about how the Palestinians had started the war, Hezbollah,
Hmm.
but Hamas. But by and large, the Israeli population is against this war and wants to see the end
Right.
of this strife. Uh, yeah, uh, Ukraine, Russia's showing no signs of getting tired of what they're doing, but
No, they're not.
I think they're running out of ammo. Basically, I think we're going to see a time again in this curve where they can't keep up this intense activity.
Right, right, right. And speaking of all things intense, when is this Pluto retrograde going to be over?
Oh, very soon. Is it still retrograde? Now with the moon, the sun is moving into the fall and is making a better activity, a better aspect with Pluto. It should be done very soon. I haven't looked. I didn't even think it was still retrograde, but now it's changing signs, so it's already going direct.
Wonderful, because
Yeah. That's a done
been
deal.
rough.
Luckily,
Well, ending
luckily.
October 11th. So it ended a couple of days ago. Thank God.
Yeah. That's enough. That's
Oh,
quite
that
enough.
was more than enough. I'm
Quite enough.
ready for Pluto to go home. It's drunk.
I agree. Now, there's another movement that's rather important to the opposition of Neptune to Vesta is adding to the confusion on the home front. Some of this warlike activity is going on in our own homes and in our own lives as well.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
Neptune is adding to this confusion, especially about setting up shop. It's as though uh, families that are trying to stay together are having extreme difficulty making compromises, keeping things the way they should be, the way they feel good. And there will be a great deal of stress, a great deal of strife still uh, this month, I think, just in keeping families happy and occupied. There's going to be a great deal of what I hope is give and take. There should be the 23rd of October, particularly, is a good day to be talking about making compromises, talking about how we want the home to be run, how we want family members to be acting, in interacting. All of these things can be pretty well settled on the 23rd of October. However, the moon is acting very bad in this situation on the 28th and the 30th of October. So sit down, be calm. It's time to talk things out and and forget what's basically minor stress.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, so I think the big question on every American's mind, whether they live in the States or outside of the States, is this political strife and the election. Like, what do we need to know? Because the election's fallen right in the middle of Scorpio.
Yeah, it's it's going to be so tight because emotions are running rampant. I always
Yeah,
hate that this election is in this time of year,
I
but I know
know.
how much do we need? How
Good.
much strife do we need in here? Um, but here it is. And so how to deal with this? It's again to my thinking. I think the questions of internal problems within the states are going to be basic because the asteroids. Remember those asteroids, those little bitty guys that are going around between Mars and Jupiter? There's a whole belt of them, and they seem to create just a lot of tension, but on a very human level. we're not looking at the big picture anymore. We're looking about why don't you pick your socks up off the floor when I tell you to, and why don't you put them in the hamper so I can do the laundry, and this kind of stuff that makes people basically crazy.
Oh
Now
yeah.
this is what we're talking about too. There's the whole period until the 3rd of November, with Pluto adding its grain of sand in the works, that are making for very difficult time to be making decisions concerning rights and responsibilities of family members, especially in couples and in households.
Mm.
It's again this irritation that is going to make this election extremely close. It's going to come down to how well each party can can touch the emotions of the American people, because it's all of these issues are extremely emotional. It's time to think about taking care of children. It's time to think about abortion. It's time to think about all of these questions that are hounding us, just basically hounding us. And it's really going to come down to uh, who makes the most sense to each person that's listening.
I know. And that is hard because we have become so polarized
Mm.
that basically there's just two vastly different worldviews.
Yeah.
So what makes sense to one person makes absolutely the opposite of sense to another.
This is
And
the whole problem, especially with this Pluto opposite Mars. There's no room. There's no room for
no,
discussion.
no,
There's
it's either this way or
it's
that way.
vital.
And the
It's
way
yeah,
that you see things colors everything that you see. And it's
yes.
gotten to the point where we've got permission to take like whatever our worldview is and apply it to basically everything.
To basically everything. I know it's absolutely terrifying. I think in the next few days there are some very hard times. I talked about the 23rd and the 28th
Yeah.
of October, also the 30th, also the 5th and 6th of November, also the 8th of November, and also the 13th of November. Now, the election will have been wound up there on the 5th and 6th, I think. Oh,
Well, it's the fifth.
the 5th, right.
Right.
Okay. But meanwhile, during these 2 weeks, the arguments are going to be fast and loose, and it's I don't know. I can't call this election. I don't know how to do that. To tell you the truth, it's
That
just
was my
so
next question.
emotionally, yeah, yeah. It's just so emotion clad that it's going to be really tough. I hope that people who have remained I don't know what percentage non-committal in this argument are going to be touched by the human interest arguments that are coming, especially out of the Democratic Party. I hope this is going to turn the tide,
Right. Yeah.
because those are the arguments that are going to touch the hearts of people the most.
Right, right, right,
More
right.
so even than the economic arguments, I think.
Mm. So let me ask you this. Something that weighs heavily on my mind is the thought of political violence, not just the day of the election. And I know that the Kansas City Election Board, at least, is beefing up security at all of their polling places. But
Interesting.
but the days after the
Yeah,
election
I know. I
is
know. We're still in very uh
volatile.
angry territory. And yeah, I I'm not pronouncing myself. I think anything can happen. Actually, I think anything can happen during that post-election period.
Yeah, and I fear for candidates and anybody in office that they be safe and that they beef up their security details. And
Yes.
it's really terrible that we've come to that.
Well, I agree totally. It's hard times for all violence on all levels, and yeah, people will be people, and angry people remain angry. It looks to me like it's going to be very difficult to get get the temperature back down,
Yeah,
after this emotional upheaval
right.
building up to the election.
So the time around that, the beginning of November and maybe even to the middle of November,
Yes.
um, I don't know. Is there any chance that, well, I'm sure that's going to be a volatile time, but just astrologically speaking, any hope there? You talked about
Oh,
the fifth and sixth being kind of difficult.
they're very difficult. The 8th and the 13th as well. We'll talk about November a little for in Sagittarius a little farther down the line. But and I haven't looked ahead that far, but I'm thinking that we're going to see some shifting of, well, especially the fast planets, of course, are going to get out of the way, basically out of harm's way into Sagittarius and into Capricorn. So we'll have period of relative peace, I think, especially as we approach the new year. But until then, I'm not looking for much in the way of just breathing easy. I think it's going to be very tense through the end of the year.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah. I always say whenever we talk like this, that it's always good to know and we can have a plan and
Sure.
know that there's more than just people are being jerks. There's
Yes, and hysterical jerks on top of it.
there's more
There's
to that.
really no place for this type of overreaction, this heat, these heated arguments that aren't even arguments. They're positions taken that nobody wants to compromise on, and that's a dangerous approach to anything. I wanted to talk a minute about well, two things. First of all, we can use some of this aggressivity in a good way.
Sure.
I'm thinking there are some very nice dates, what I call court dates. If you have to go to court, if you have to defend your contract, if you have to go for a job interview, if you have to ask for that raise, if you have to defend your interests. There are some very nice times to be aggressive in doing exactly that. Gently aggressive. The 29th
Assertive.
of October, the 4th, and the 9th of November are wonderful for going out and presenting your case the best of your ability and defend your interests in whatever line. You need to ask somebody to marry you, ask for divorce, ask for whatever you need. These are times when you can take care of your own interests, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. Good. Okay. So that takes us through the end of, well, the end of Scorpio and maybe through the end of the year as well. As I always say, it's helpful to know these things going into it. That way we can have a plan and we can prepare. And then I also want to stress again that these are global dates, global energies,
Phenomena, right?
right? They're global. They don't necessarily apply in every aspect to every single person, depending on where you're
Certainly not.
right?
Certainly
Where your
not.
chart is. So it's always a good idea to get your chart drawn up, to have an
Sure.
interpretation.
Have an idea where you can slip into the movement here, catch that wave, because it's all about timing. Using these energies is all about timing and how to adapt them to your personal needs. So this can be done gracefully. This can be done without great loss and much sacrifice.
Right.
It's getting involved with your own cycles, and astrology is a very good way to find those cycles.
Right. And especially the way that you handle astrology, which is a very personalized psychological approach, I might say. So humanistic type of approach rather than just like
Sure.
very. So go to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/appointment
Cozy.
or go to the Mary Jane Staudenmann page and book an appointment there for a natal chart. Be prepared. You will need to supply time, exact time, date, and location of birth
Mhm.
when you schedule. All right,
I
Mary
want to
Jane,
talk
we will
about you.
talk about you. We will see you again in Sagittarius.
I'll be around. Hope to see you too.
Right on.